Ashley. I'm really glad you decided to come today. This is our second session, so the first one we kind of spent trying to get to know each other, and you just kind of explaining to me like what exactly had happened and what was going on. And we talked about a few things, but first of all, why don't you just tell me how you did this week?
I did a little bit better. I used other activities to deal with the grief of my brother instead of just crying and yelling. And they kind of helped. I listened to more music. I wrote down how I felt each day. But I feel like I just don't have anyone to talk to. I feel like if I talk to someone that they don't really understand and they just try to give me answers that don't make any sense to me.
Well, I'm really proud of you for implementing some of the techniques that we talked about and for writing down how you're feeling, listening to your music, and doing things that are going to help you feel a little bit better. Um, and I can see where it would be really frustrating, feeling like no one really understands where you are. It's hard losing a sibling, and that's not something that, people deal with regularly, and especially one so young. Um, so why don't you tell me how things are going with, talking with your parents about some of this?
Well, I don't feel comfortable talking to my parents because they just lost a child and I don't want them to have to worry about how I feel. And so I just hide away from them and they don't really try to interact with me because they know it's been hard on me as well. So I haven't been to school for 2 weeks, and I know my grades are going down, but I just don't want to be around people who are always happy and they don't understand what it is to like go through that, and they they will make fun of me if I put a picture of my little brother in my binder and in my locker, and I don't want to feel out of place.
So when you say, so it sounds like you're saying that you don't want to put any more pressure on your parents or make things harder on your parents by discussing what happened with them. Is that correct?
That's very correct.
Okay. Well, it's important to remember that as a family, you guys have dealt with a loss, and this is something that as a family, you're going to have to work through together. And so I think it's very, very honorable of you to want to make it as easy on your parents as possible. But we also have to remember that we are working through this as a group and as a family. And so maybe it would help if you guys, sat down for maybe just 15, 30 minutes and spent some time together just as a family, and kind of come back and figure out how your lives are going to be in this kind of new normal. Does that make sense?
Yes, but I think it's also different for my parents because they lost a child, I lost a sibling, and it's like a different relationship. And I don't want to have to talk to my mom about how I feel because she like went through a bigger loss than I did because she carried my brother for 7 months, and afterwards like she didn't want to see him, and it hurt because the nurse pushed it on her, and I really wanted to, but I didn't want her to have to regret it in the end. So coming together as a family is a good idea, but I just don't feel like it's the right thing for me to do.
I can understand that. I can understand, this is a difficult time and no one's really quite sure how to act. So I think maybe, just taking 10 or 15 minutes, just maybe to have dinner together. Maybe we don't talk about, you know, the loss. Maybe we talk about how to get your grades back up. How do we talk to your teachers and figure out what work you've missed, and kind of start there, because while you have suffered a great loss, we don't want to make things worse by your grades dropping or things like that. So maybe one thing we could do is get team up with your parents and figure out with your school what we can do about making up your work and, not forcing you to go back until you feel like you're really ready.
Well, if I go back to school now, none of my teachers would understand. My friends don't know what's happening at home, and I just feel like I'll be so behind. What's the point of going back now? I could just stay in my room.
I can understand your frustration and how, the grieving process is different for everyone. And we don't want to downplay that at all. So you're going to grieve differently than other people would grieve. And so it's going to take you some time. But we still have to keep your grades up. We can't just give up. If your parents never send you back to school, they could get in even more trouble with the state. And your parents don't need that. You don't need that on top of everything else that's happened. So if we could work out something with the school, maybe you don't have to go back right away. If you're not ready for that transition back into school after what's happened. But maybe your teachers would send your work home, and gradually, as you felt like it throughout the day, you could work on some of your projects that you're missing, or homework, or things like that. Do you think you could at least do that?
That's a good idea, and I could definitely try that. But what do I tell my friends?
Well, that is difficult. Do you feel like your friends would be supportive in what's happened?
I don't think that they would understand how to support me, and I don't want to have to discuss how I feel with them or discuss the issue at all with them.
Why do you feel like your friends wouldn't be very supportive?
Well, because none of them went through a loss before, and this isn't the first loss I went through, and when you experience death, experience someone dying, a loved one dying, you understand it more and you could relate to someone more. But as my friends, they're so young and all that they really care about is just hanging out with their friends and that's it. They don't understand that there are bigger things out there.
I see what you're saying. Maybe this would be a good opportunity for you to just not necessarily talk about the situation, but, if they do call you and want to know why you're, not at school or things like that, maybe it would be a good opportunity for you to give them pointers in ways that they could be more supportive to you because they haven't suffered a loss. They probably don't know how to support someone who has. And so maybe if you talked about it, if they asked you, how are you doing? Are you okay? Etc. You could say, well, it's been really difficult, but it would be really helpful if whatever you felt like they could do to help this process be a little easier for you. Does that seem like a realistic goal or something that you feel like you could do with your friends?
Yes.
So do you feel like they would respond well to something like that?
I don't know, but I could try.
Okay. Well, why don't we make that one of the goals to work on for next week? Maybe at least talk to one friend. Maybe your closest friend, someone that you really trust, someone that maybe you've dealt with other things with, and maybe someone that has reached out to you or has kind of said checked on you. Excuse me. And say it would be helpful if you did this.
Okay, I think I have someone in mind that I could do that with.
Great. So that'll be our goal for next week. Keep writing in your journal, keep listening to your music, and maybe just spend some quality time with your parents.
Okay, thank you.